click on the subscribe button, and press the bell icon, to never miss any updates.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلوات والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أصحابه وأهله أجمعين. And to my brothers and my sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very proud to be here. I'm very humbled to be here. Jazakumullah khairan for inviting me to be a part of this gathering, to be a part of this family, which I see is growing and mashallah, so beautiful. I've had the pleasure of speaking with some of my sisters here. And what I see is this need for this community to continue the legacy of Islam into the next generation, as we saw with the youth that lined up. And I'm so proud to be a part of an event that inshallah will allow that to happen. Dr. Sobri reached out to me and he said, Sister Afaf, I'd like you to speak about the challenges that we face today and maintaining optimism in the current environment. And alhamdulillah, I told him that's a wonderful topic, and it's particularly relevant for this particular event because if a masjid in the center is not at the heart of facing our challenges and maintaining optimism, then we've lost something. We've lost the meaning of what a masjid in a center should be. And alhamdulillah, I'm very glad to be of this, have this opportunity. And when I started speaking, I asked my husband, what's your advice for me? And he told me, just keep it sweet and short. I like the advice, except for the fact that that's what he tells me when we argue. But I'll take it anyway, because I think some of the best messages can be said very directly, and for any of you who get to know me, you'll see that I'm a rather blunt and direct person. You see, my brothers and my sisters, as Dr. Sobri said, I'm the executive director for this civil rights organization called CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the New York chapter. And every single day, my entire life is about facing challenges that he began to describe. Just this very morning, I don't know if any of you saw the reports come out. We had to respond to a media post about a white supremacist who had threatened our sister and Congresswoman, Sister Ilhan Omar. He called to their office and said that he doesn't like the idea of radical Muslims in our government, and threatened with a bullet to her skull. Yesterday, our office had to respond to another threat. A New York man, right here in our state, also had an issue with Muslims, and him and his cousin were posting plans and articulating plans to plot a terror attack against the Muslim community inspired by what happened in New Zealand. Also yesterday, not one, but two calls involving our youth at schools. One of them had to do with just an 11-year-old who had foolishly posted some things which most kids probably would have gotten away from, but not when you're Muslim. And now he has law enforcement checking out his laptop, his social media. He's been questioned by the NYPD, and he's been threatened, a 10-year-old threatened, to be put on the terror watch list. Another child just turned 11 years old, and he's facing bullying in school, not just from his peers, but harassment from his teacher. Right after that appointment, I met with two families. Do you remember the families of Imam Al-Kunji and Taruddin from Ozone Park? The Imam and his assistant that were brutally executed in broad daylight in Ozone Park. We've been counseling them since the days of that murder in 2016, legally. And yesterday we met with them, and I had the opportunity to sit across the table from one of the sons, the Imam's son, who, subhanAllah, holds such such nude from his face, and such innocence. And he's dealing with the consequences. I asked him, what are you studying? He said, I'm working. He has a family to support because his dad is now with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, we stayed with those families up through the conviction of the criminal who is now serving a life sentence without parole in jail, alhamdulillah. But that only happened because the community came together and organized. And earlier this week, I was in DC. We were in DC pushing policies for our community and the ones abroad. Policies that our representatives need to be aware of. The Rohingya genocide that continues to happen today and the refugees in Bangladesh. The atrocities are mind-boggling. The Uyghur Muslims of China, the internment of our brothers and sisters. This is happening in our generation, under our watch. Our ummah is facing these difficulties. And my brothers and sisters, just before that, it doesn't end yet. Just before that, we had work discrimination matters. If you're keeping up with the stats, the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, will tell you that a quarter, almost 25% of their complaints are coming from the Muslim community. We comprise 3 to 4% of the American population. Tell me that that's not of concern to you. And we have bank accounts, potentially your bank accounts, masjid bank accounts, organizations bank accounts, business bank accounts that are being closed randomly within the Muslim community without explanation. My brothers and my sisters, we have many, many challenges. And the ones that I named are just the tip of the iceberg. And yes, while they are very serious, and while they are numerous, there is still this constant and persistent optimism that I maintain even in my line of work. And it keeps with me throughout the day, every day. And it comes to me in 2 simple words that we reiterate again and again and again. Those 2 simple words are Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, God is greater than anything that we face. Allahu Akbar, we hear it with the adhan every single day. Allahu Akbar, we hear it with our ruku'ah and our sujood, with our prostration and our prayers. And subhanAllah, if you allow these words to penetrate into the chambers of your heart, if you ponder for a moment the depth and the potency of these words, you cannot help but feel optimistic. This belief that Allah is greater and bigger than you and me, Allah is bigger and greater than anyone in the White House, that Allah is greater and bigger than any supremacist group, that Allah is greater than anyone who tries to plan, for He is the greatest of planners. This belief, this core principle of our faith, is a reminder of Allah's mercy, His love, His compassion, His wisdom, His omniscience, His might, His justice is far greater than anything that we are facing. It is a reminder to us that He and He alone is Al-Salam, the provider of peace. That He and He alone is Al-Hafidh, the protector, Al-Mutakabbir, Al-Aziz, the dominant and the almighty. And we're reminded of His promise in the surah that we just heard during Salah before we came in. Surah Al-Sharh, Al-Inshirah. If you were listening what the Imam read, that promise was conveyed to us, subhanAllah, as if it was a signal to all of you, a reminder as we sit here, that Allah promises us that with every single hardship, every single difficulty, there will be ease, there will be relief through His mercy. Inna ma'al usra yusra. We heard it today during our sujood. Have we forgotten this promise, my brothers and my sisters? This promise that was made directly, subhanAllah, to the Prophet himself, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And let's not forget that he was the first to encounter Islamophobia, was he not? He was the first to encounter Islamophobia way greater than ours, at its worst, through the death threats, through the boycotts. He was the first to face it as he saw his companions become martyrs through persecution, and he himself was subject to that persecution. And in that same surah, we were reminded to stand up in worship and to direct our wishes, our hopes, our dreams, to subject our optimism to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our creator. And we remain strong in our faith, in that worship, in that ikhlas, in that sincerity to God's service, recognizing that He is the supreme. And then that optimism, wallahi, becomes automatic. We saw the outcome of the Rasul's concerns and issues and persecution. SubhanAllah, today there are people who are worshiping Allah in every corner of the globe. We even see it in our life. You know, I told you a little bit of the problems and the concerns and the issues that we see every day in our office. But remember when I mentioned Sister Al-Han and the threats made against her? Well, it pushes the dialogue and forces us to be on the forefront with media, doesn't it? It pushes the dialogue of white supremacy. It pushes the dialogue and makes coalition partners to come together as we realize, and as Dr. Sabri mentioned, that this issue of white supremacy is not new with us, that African Americans in this country have faced it, that we see it with our Latino brothers and sisters at the border, that we see this hateful ideology against our Jewish neighbors, against the Chinese, against the Sikh community, and somehow it has brought us together in one family of humanity in recognition of this common enemy, this thing, this arrogance that allows people to think that somehow they are better because of the color of their skin. It is through these challenges that we have seen opportunities to challenge the narrative, to tell people, no, 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 stop calling it Islamic radicalization, Islamic terrorism. Terrorism has no religion. These challenges have brought about the opportunity, like the attack in New Zealand, the opportunity for millions around the globe to hear the adhan for the first time in their life, perhaps. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah, we saw those people who perhaps had never heard the adhan cry with the Muslims, mourn alongside of us, shed tears and hug us in solidarity. And our children who face this crisis, and yes, it is a crisis, and yes, it is why we do need strong Islamic centers. Our children who are facing this crisis are now grabbing our attention because we understand the absolute need to build their identity around Islam. And we are inspired as parents, as organizations, as community leaders, as masajid, to teach them about their faith so that they too are unapologetic about their Islamic identity and their American identity. That they too understand and never second guess their ability to succeed in dunya and akhirah. And that includes rising to the highest level of public office. You know, my brothers and sisters, with all these challenges, for the first time in history, over 100 Muslims from coast to coast ran for office. Over 100. And so many of them won seats on the local, state, and federal level. SubhanAllah. Perhaps we would have never seen that if we were not facing these challenges. And my brothers and sisters, as we continue to debate and push against these policies, as we see people targeting our communities, We hold strong our faith near us. We come to the masajid, we come to the Islamic centers, we come to smile to one another, we come to say salam alaikum. We come to formulate policies that strengthen us from within. We come to replenish our spirit of Islam, knowing that that is our basis and our foundation for every success that is to come. And despite whoever opposes us, whatever that opposition may be, we know that our communities, rooted in Islamic centers, rooting in the masajid, will continue to build leadership based on the prophetic model of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and based on these two very simple words which ground our optimism. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And so as you sit here tonight, and you've made the commitment to be here and to support the center, we tell you to ground your faith, ground the promise of tomorrow in the deen, in what the center can do for our community, inshallah, in your diligence, and in the promise of a better tomorrow, because with every hardship, there is ease. Jazakumullah khairan. I appreciate being able to be here with you, and inshallah, I look forward to continuing to be a part of this family. Salaam alaikum.
ITV, Call of Peace, Save Humanity.